Hello and welcome to the channel. I'm Carl from Planet 40k and we're back with more Necron reviews, and today we're going to be covering a new unit from the box, the Plasmancer. So yesterday we covered the Necron Warriors. If you didn't see that, I'll leave a link in the description below, so go check that one out. So today we're doing the Plasmancer. If you're not already subscribed, please get on board as we're dropping review videos almost daily now at the moment. And we're still virtually a new channel, so we'd really appreciate the help. So the new Necron Plasmancer is a new model within the Codex. It comes in at 4 power level or 80 points if you're playing points. He is a HQ option and he's pretty cheap at that 80 points, which is quite handy if you're playing a small combat patrol game, or simply if you just don't want to go too heavy on the points in your HQ slots for your detachments. Anyway, so let's jump into his data sheet. So he's got a movement 5 or weapon skill 3, ballistic skill 3, strength 4, toughness 4, wounds 4, attacks 1, leadership 10, and a 4-up save. Pretty average stats except for the 4 wounds, I guess. However, he does have a few little tricks up his sleeves when it comes to abilities. So as for all characters in the Necron Codex, he has Living Metal, which is an ability to regain a lost wound at the start of your turn. This, however, may be changing when the new Codex is released later in the year, so stay tuned for that. His second ability is an aura ability, which is called Living Lightning. So at the start of your fight phase, roll a d6 for each enemy within 6 inches. On a 4+, they suffer a mortal wound. So not bad, not great, but in certain situations, this little aura can hurt multiple units at once. His third ability, the Harbinger of Destruction. So this is done at the end of the movement phase. If this model hasn't advanced or fell back, you can select the nearest visible enemy model within 18 inches, roll 3d6, and on each 4+, you give mortal wound. Again, this is just okay, but when you combine the 2 powers together, you have the potential of dealing 3 wounds, then an additional wound in the fight phase, if they are also within 6 inches, alongside dealing other single wounds to other units within 6 too. So he's a little bit of a menace, really. Now remember, he is a character, so if he's protected well and pushed right up into your opponent's lines, he'll be dishing out damage. He won't be able to be targeted in the shooting phase as he's under 10 wounds. Not only that, your opponent will probably start to focus his army on trying to take him down because he's going to start chipping off wounds. So your Plasmancer himself, he's a pretty good distraction unit. Alongside the character keyword, he also has Fly, which could get him out of bother if needed. His movement, though, is pretty slow at 5 inches. So you can either place him in strategic reserves or maybe in a night scythe to be flown into a certain area, although that will waste quite a few turns doing that. He could foot slog his way with a large group of warriors, perhaps. So looking at his data sheet, he has a new weapon which is both ranged and melee called Plasmic Lance. So this is an 18-inch assault D3 strength 7 minus 3 AP weapon that deals 2 damage. So that's pretty decent. You could help with that by adding, say, an Overlord. That could aid his ballistic skill by 1, or you could add just a regular Lord to help you with the reroll 1s to wound. It's a decent weapon. Half the time it's going to kill a Primaris Marine or 2, so it's chipping away. His combat weapon is also the Plasmic Lance. That's not that strong. Strength user, so strength 4, minus 3 AP and 2 damage again, but it's only 1 attack this time. If you're lucky, you might peel off another Primaris Marine, but don't count on it. So overall, I feel like the Plasmancer isn't going to be the unit that really lays the hurt on your opponent. However, there is a continuous theme of his abilities and weapons. They're frequently chipping away a few wounds at almost every phase. So in the movement phase, you're using your Harbinger of Destruction ability, so you're nibbling away there. Then in the shooting phase, with his ranged weapon, he's only dishing out a few wounds, but he's still nibbling away at the wounds again. The fight phase, where you've got your Living Lightning aura, so you're nibbling away again, and obviously you've then got your combat weapon, which ain't going to do much, but you're still going at it. If he's protected well, he can be doing this nibbling almost every turn, and it's really going to start to choke your opponent in the sense that all of his units are not at full strength anymore, and this will keep the rest of your army alive because they're facing less threats from full squads. Not only that, you've also got your own reanimation protocols to relinquish your own army, so while his is depleting, yours is going to keep coming back. Another little thing to think about is not really that dependent on any particular dynasty, so he can fit in any list. Doesn't matter what dynasty you're using, so he doesn't really need any of them. Going back to the warrior blob protection that I suggested earlier, you could also use the new models, the Cryptothralls, which they're basically Cryptek bodyguards. We'll be going through a review video over them at a later date, so stay tuned for that. But yeah, they're basically Cryptek bodyguards. They also gain buffs when they're around a Cryptek, so that could synergize a bit, but I think I'd rather the warriors. Okay, so going over some of the pros to this model, it's only 80 points. Is pretty cheap, especially compared to other Necron HQs in the Codex. He's dishing out steady, ongoing mortal wound damage to enemy units around you, so that's going to massively help you throughout the game. His weapon is pretty decent at strength 7. He's a character under 10 wounds, so you can protect him easy with those, whether it's the 20-man warrior blobs or the Cryptothralls. But it's pretty easy to hide because of the under 10 wounds thing. He's got fly, so he can get himself out of dodge when he needs to. He can get himself into bother when he needs to as well, to get himself to inflict the mortal wounds. He's not reliant on any dynasty codes, so he just sort of does his own thing. He's his own wanderer. He's sort of, to me, he's like an unsung hero. He's doing all the work. He's probably not going to last the whole game, but by the time he does die, he's done enough damage to suffice for the 80-point cost that he is. Okay, going on to some of his cons. Poor stat line. You can see his stat line's pretty basic. Again, it's not about his stats. It's more about his abilities. He's not that great in close combat, though, and he's only got 1 attack as well, so you don't want him in combat. He's quite a kamikaze unit, so he shouldn't be your warlord unless you want to give up those points straight away. He will require guarding. If you don't guard him, he's just going to get sniped off instantly. So, like I said, you need those 20-man blobs that can keep reanimating themselves to protect him. Otherwise, he's going to go off the board. And he's only got a 5-inch slow movement, so it's going to take him a while to get to where he needs to go. So overall, don't forget, this guy only costs you 80 points. Now, I know, like, if you're going to getting 20 warriors, that's going to be another 240, but you're probably going to take that blob of warriors regardless, because they're quite standard in most Necron lists. So really, it's an additional 80 points, but what he gets you in return is so much more. I'm almost tempted to take 2 of them because you can double up on all those mortal wounds and shooting that he's doing. He sort of feels like he should be in the elite slots rather than the HQs, but I don't make the rules, so that's where he is. Overall, pound for pound, I think he's a top unit in my opinion. At first glance, he looks quite awful with no stats and not great weapons, but tactically, these mortal wounds that you deal, they're so powerful. No storm shield can stop a mortal wound, let alone 4 of them on a unit. I really thought at first this unit was going to be getting a rating out of a 2 out of 5, but once you start to dive deep into his datasheet, you'll see he's a lot better than that. And I'm actually going to be giving him a Planet 40k rating of 4 out of 5. If you've enjoyed the video and you want to see more reviews on the channel, please drop us a like and subscribe. Remember to click that bell to be notified whenever there's a video. At the moment, we're doing them almost daily now, so stay tuned and I'll see you next time.